Craig El Guapo Trapp, our fearless leader. Craig, great to be with you. NFL opening lines are set. The wildcard games are behind us.
Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the bell for notifications every time we have a new video.
I might add a couple of upsets, right, Craig?
Yeah, not only a couple upsets. If you're a sports bettor, 3 of the 4 underdogs won, and depending on where you got it at, you either pushed or you won on the Houston Texans if you took them at -2.5. But all 4 unders cashed too. So unders and underdogs did really well opening week. Maybe that means this week you play the favorites and the overs. We'll talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's start, shall we, with the Saturday games. Vikings at 49ers. Now, this opened with San Francisco as 6.5-point favorites. Of course, the Vikings coming off that victory in the wild card game. Total 45.5. What do you expect that to happen with that, Craig? Is that going to move?
Well, I mean, I see some 7s out there as well. So there were some opening lines, I think, at 7, but I think the more consensus line is the 49ers at 6.5. Pretty interesting since Minnesota, of course, had a nice overtime win against a very, very good Saints team. Now they have to play with 1 day less rest against a rested 49ers bunch. So I think this line is right about where it should be, either 6.5 or 7. Obviously, if you like the underdog, you want to wait and try to get that 7. If you like the favorite, you want to jump on it now at the 6.5. And, we'll see if San Francisco can first playoff win since, of course, Jim Harbaugh left to go to Michigan.
Interestingly enough, Craig, I mean, we talk about this game, but, there has to be a lot of momentum now, emotional momentum with the Vikings. It's either going to go one or two ways. They're either going to be riding a high into this game and believe they can beat anybody, or they're going to sort of have achieved their emotional crescendo and come into this game and meet the brick wall of reality. I think one of these two things are going to happen, Craig.
Well, Kirk Cousins, the knock on him is he could win the big game. He hasn't been able to win on Monday night, all those chances, all that is knocks. Well, he had a really good game against one of the tougher places to win, of course, in the Superdome in New Orleans. So I think Minnesota will be ready to play. I don't think the short week will matter. I just think this Minnesota team is playing really well. Their ability to run the ball is really what is going to set when Dalvin Cook runs the ball, this Minnesota team is a different team. I think they'll be able to run the ball against the 49ers. I think this is going to be much closer than the line suggests.
I do too. All right, next up, let's go. The Titans. Well done, boys. You beat the Patriots. Now it's over, though, because at the Ravens, 9.5-point favorites for Baltimore with a total of 48. Look, I thought the Titans played fantastic, but in some respect, we can talk about the Patriots another time, I guess. But this seems a hair low to me. Maybe I'm not giving the Titans the respect that they need. What do you think, Trapp?
Yeah. Well, Baltimore, actually, I see some lines out there at 10, so I think you're right on. I think the bettors have talked, and this line now is at 10. Both the AFC lines are at 10. They moved from 9.5 to 10 already. I think Baltimore, with a week off, with that great running game at home, I think it's going to be a tall task for a Tennessee defense. But this Tennessee defense is very good, and they can run the ball as well. Henry was really good against a very good Patriots team. So I think it's all going to be who can run the ball and control that clock. And both teams, that's really their goals.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's good stuff. I mean, these wildcard games were very, and by the way, allow me to add, some very exciting games as well. Okay, maybe the Seahawks game wasn't exactly a seat over your pants game, but 3 of the 4 I thought were really cracking games, loads of entertainment, and kind of kept you wondering right to almost till the last second of the game, or in some cases, what was it? Delay of game penalties 2 times over to knock 15 seconds off the clock. Great stuff. Love it. Well done, Titans. But game over, I'm afraid. All right. Texans at Chiefs. Texans with that, was that some of the worst play calling you've ever seen in the NFL or with the Buffalo Bills, Craig?
Well, I mean, the Bills, their knock on them all year was Allen would make some unbelievable plays, but there was a lot of in between there where they had to survive with their running game and that great defense. It finally caught up to them. Texans, though, really, I mean, pulled that one out by the seat of their pants. It was a thrilling win, but a big task here. And like we said, this Chiefs line opened at 9.5. Now it's at 10 for good reason. Kansas City in a rested spot. Arrowhead, one of the tougher places to play with a total of 49 here. I think it's a big task for Houston to win here. Cover maybe is obviously much a bigger chance when you're getting double digits.
Hey, Craig, I have to ask you, I mean, the Chiefs really the kind of dark horse potentially to take the whole thing? I mean, because they're not as sexy as the Ravens. They're not getting it done with as much fanfare. but there's something awfully efficient about this team.
Well, last year, their offense for Kansas City got all the praise. Now, this year, it's about Baltimore and Lamar Jackson. But guess what? The Chiefs' defense is much improved this year. They really were good down the stretch. Now, granted, they played some of maybe weaker competition. So you have to, look at who they played. But still, I like the improved defense. I do think it gets them through this week as far as straight up. I don't know about the spread. We'll talk about this one probably later in the week on our rapid fire picks. But I think if I was on this one, I would be playing the under 49 here. I just think this Kansas City defense is improved. I think the Texans defense, they know they can't get into a shootout here. If they get into a shootout, they're going to lose on the road here.
All right. Okay, let's move on. Next one, we've got Seattle Seahawks at the Green Bay Packers. Green Bay, 4-point favorites. It's not an awful lot. I have to say, I quite like the Seahawks. I think this team maybe is better than they get credit for. Where do you see this line going, Craig? And I see a total of 46. I mean, Seahawks coming off that kind of low-scoring wild card game. How do you see this one?
Yeah, well, with this one being the last game, of course, on Sunday night, you haven't seen a whole lot of line movement yet. This line just came out before we went on air here. But I do think this line will move a little bit. But, to me, it's not going to get to any of the key numbers. It's not going to get to 6 or 7. It's probably not going to get to down to 3. So I don't think it really matters. You don't no hurry if you like one side or the other in this one. Seattle's run game was better than I thought. I thought Marshawn Lynch played really well. Only his second game back, of course. And, with so many injuries, I thought Seattle might struggle. I did like them on the road, but I was a little nervous because of the, going with a running back that hasn't had a lot of carries this year, but it hasn't mattered. His experience, Marshawn Lynch, was fine. I think Seattle will play really close here, but winning the weather here, I think, could be a big factor. We know how cold it can be at Lambeau Field this time of year, so I would wait till closer later in the week before I play this one.